The Washington Post and the rest of the mainstream media are fake news working collectively to disseminate such trash. The Washington Post said that they had sources, reputable sources, and they confirmed that Donald Trump in a phone call said, "Find the fraud," to a Georgia investigator for the Elections Bureau. Find the fraud. You will be a national hero. It turns out that Donald Trump said none of this. However, the mainstream media latched on. This little clip is from Grabian, and they constructed it. Can't take credit for it, but this is the mainstream media at the time jumping onto the Washington Post narrative as if they had corroborated the story. No, there's no money to corroborate. The only thing that they're out there after is clicks and outrage. And there is no journalism left. If y'all believe the fake news media after you see this, we'll talk in a moment. Here you go.
Another week, another call. NBC News confirming that President Trump called Georgia's chief elections investigator to, quote, find the fraud, saying that official would be, quote, a national hero.
President Trump personally called Georgia's lead elections investigator and demanded that person produce evidence which didn't exist and, quote, find the fraud, adding that if they did so, they would be a, quote, national hero.
The Washington Post reported yesterday that President Trump called a Georgia election investigator and pressured him to, quote, find the fraud.
And President Trump apparently pressured an election investigator to find the fraud. Again, not the phone call out of Georgia, another one.
We now know of a second, there's so much, a second call from President Trump to Georgia officials about trying to overturn the election. He reportedly told an elections investigator in Cobb County to, quote, find the fraud, and then that person would be a national hero.
Trump making that call was essentially interfering in an active investigation when he asked the top investigator to, quote, find the fraud, saying that that official would be a, quote, national hero if that person did so.
Now, there was a second call to another elections official in your state to, quote, find the fraud.
Well, I was pleased to see that this kind of pressuring of our Secretary of State was added to the articles of impeachment.
NBC News confirming a Washington Post report revealing that President Trump placed a separate call to Georgia election officials, pressuring them to, and I quote, find the fraud while trying to overturn the results there.
Late last month, the president called Georgia's lead elections investigator, urging them to, quote, find the fraud. This was first reported by the Washington Post.
Now we are also learning of another call, first reported by the Washington Post and confirmed by our colleague Jason Morris, that the president called one of these investigators in the state of Georgia who was investigating election fraud and urged him to, quote, find the fraud, and also encouraging him that he would become a national hero if indeed he did find evidence of voter fraud.
So this is what's passing for the news media. Something went horribly wrong here. This was under the Trump impeachment. This was brought into the House as evidence against Donald Trump when he didn't even say it. They constructed false evidence. They are trying to convict Trump over multiple things that they didn't say. If you don't think that there's a partisan media, do they ever make a mistake in the favor of the right-hand side of the aisle? Never. Not once. Oh, believe me, they will bury any story, negative story about the Democrats like they did about Andrew Cuomo and the fact that he killed nursing home patients. And now they're bringing him back, as I've mentioned in another video. Are bringing the charges against him with the Me Too stuff, and they are using it like a magician. Pay attention here. Pay attention here. We are going to denigrate Cuomo with the Me Too stuff. The real story is not this. The real story is that he was entirely wrong and murdered multiple people by putting convalescents with COVID back into nursing homes, as well as other people, because he didn't want to give Trump the victory by putting him on the ships. It was political. Of course, this is political also. Cuomo is an evil man. They knowingly put these residents back into nursing homes with COVID, as if it takes a genius to realize that when you put diseased people next to each other, that it likely will spread. And these are the most vulnerable populations. Nevertheless, back to Donald Trump and the Washington Post. The fake news media is once again whitewashing everything. They made a horrific mistake. This is not news reporting. They put that in quotes. You cannot quote somebody and say that this person said this and get it wrong. That is malfeasance. That could be slander. This is false. And F the Washington Post. And the only reason that it was found out is because the sound clip was found in the trash folder of the investigator who secretly taped the call with Donald Trump. No doubt hoping that he'd say something spicy, and then perhaps she was the source who spilled the beans about what he might have said, despite the fact that he didn't say it. One person familiar with the call. They don't even get two sources. And this is what the mainstream media is. They're jokes. They're absolute jokes. You want to continue to listen to them after they time and time again get things totally wrong and lie to you, like the fine people hoax, the drinking bleach hoax, the fact that Donald Trump was supposedly a Russian asset. And now Trump said this. Trump stated that you'll be a national hero. Trump said find the fraud when he didn't. And y'all want to continue to believe the media. Y'all want to continue to go down these BlueAnon sources. This is the dissolution of America because they are only propagandizing for one side and trying to dissolve the other side. So videos like this are there to make y'all aware about what's going on, about what the mainstream media is bringing you in terms of the vile lies that they are spreading. And most people only have time for the headline and they don't read further. And this is what they get, and it gets beaten into their head. And you beat something into somebody's head enough times, eventually they believe the lie. You tell a lie loud enough, long enough, eventually people believe it. This was the Nazi propaganda method that the mainstream media is avidly taking for themselves. Way to go. It is horrific what they are doing. There's no excuse for it. This is supposed to be the leading newspaper in the country, along with the New York Times, both of which get things totally wrong, like Brian Sisnick, the officer in question, when they said that he had been beaten with a fire hydrant. And yet they don't find any evidence of it. Fake news. Fake news. He died of a stroke. If there was evidence, believe me, they'd have presented it by now because they don't like to go back on what they say. And yet they quietly admit that all the fake news, all this stuff that denigrates America, that hurts the American bond, nevertheless, y'all want to continue to believe the Washington Post, the New York Times, all this fake news? How many times do you have to have it proven that it's fake news? And the problem is that most of the people that are watching this video already know that they're fake news, that Donald Trump has an ample amount of evidence of this. It happens on a continual basis. So my invitation to you is to share this video with somebody that might not know what is in fact going on and the fact that they are being lied to time and time again. Because there has to be ContraPoints. There has to be another source of information other than what the mainstream media is funneling into them, which is why they're trying to absolve Fox News from getting airtime. And they send letters to AT&T saying get rid of Fox News. And it's only a matter of time before eventually they give in and we have a 1984-like state, a Orwellian state. And that's that. Fake news wins. Hey! Stand up against the fake news. Share this video with somebody who would appreciate it. Thumb it up because YouTube ain't going to give it no love. And seriously, for you guys that leave a comment, let me know what you guys think, how we can best battle this monster. Washington Post, y'all are scum. Y'all are liars. You can't get this many stories wrong without it being intentional and for one side of the aisle only. Peace out.